time for you and I to have a conversation about what you do in January and why it's not working. January is not for setting goals. And I know everybody and their neighbor is taking January to launch new and exciting ventures and claim what they're working towards. And you and I are going to set up this conversation so you don't fall into the same trap as everybody else. If January were an Inside Out character, it's a great movie by Pixar. I highly recommend that you watch it. If January were one of the characters in that movie, January would easily be anxiety. This fear-ridden, hurried, rushed, and uncalibrated, almost unpredictable character in the year-long cycle. January just has so much energy to it. And here's some fun facts to make sure that you don't fall into this trap and why I'm here to make sure that you don't. 23% of people that set New Year's resolutions quit, fully disengage by the end of the first week. 43% quit by the end of January. The stats track on and off from there, but what's most important is that January is utilized as a tool for your year, not as a kinetic upstart to a race. I can cite so many Januaries where I made the mistakes that I'm going to steer you away from. So I want you to buckle up, give me a couple of your minutes, and I'm going to help you make some better decisions this year. Let's get after it. First, let's talk about the Marine Corps Marathon. In 2019, I got to the starting line of the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C. I had taken about 11 months to train, and about 2 weeks prior to me hitting the starting line, I had run a 2.5 hour, 22-mile run. Now that's almost a complete marathon, and I did it in mind-bending time. I had trained diligently. I ran a course around my area. There were a lot of hills, and I felt incredibly prepared for what was going to happen. I had done so much work, 11 months of work to get ready for this race. The night before, I get a hotel right near the airport, and I'm sitting in the hotel the night before prepping in my head for everything that's to come. I've never run a marathon at this point, and I'm really excited about it. I'm confident. I'm feeling great. The marathon is brisk. The weather is cool. It's October, and I know that I've got to have layers. So I have my favorite jacket with me. I have the right running shoes, the right leggings, the right shorts. Like I'm kind of ready for this, both physically, mentally, and with all the gear. I've got pouches and things to eat. I've got little electrolytes that I can throw into a cup of water. I'm confident that this is going to be a really big moment for me. I want to run the marathon in less than 3 hours. That's my goal, which was a very ambitious goal. And I'll never forget getting on site. Took an Uber, and as I walk through the crowds of people, I'm realizing how big of an event this is. This event is far bigger than I could ever have imagined. There are people everywhere, and not just runners. There are signs with families huddled up on the side of the track. There's chairs, there's vendors, there's people playing drums. Like, it's early in the morning, but there is so much activity. This is a big event. And as I approach the starting line, I lose it. I absolutely come unglued. There are so many people at the starting line that they have us in waves, which was fine. No big deal. But as the group starts to run, as the starting pistol lights up, it felt like I was in The Lion King, and the buffalo or the water buffalo, whatever they are in Lion King, comes stampeding down towards Mufasa. You remember that scene? First of all, that scene was like a game-changing scene in the history of my youth. But that scene, I felt like I was in that scene. I'm trying to like run, and I'm bumping shoulders with people. There's people screaming. I got my headphones in, but everything is loud. It was a bananas scene. That's what January feels like in most cases. This rush, this bum rush to get where you want to go. And I didn't finish the race nearly the way I wanted to. I had to stop. I overheated. I didn't want to discard my jacket and lose it, so I kept it on. And then I was not hydrated well. Like it was a total train wreck. I don't know what my time was. I finished the race. I'm proud of that. But it didn't go the way I seen. And it didn't go the way I wanted, not because of my training, my lack of discipline. I got crushed for the start of the race being so overwhelming. If I had started that race slow, like I did my runs, everything would have been fine. But I was anxious, and the amount of people and stimulation and energy was just absolutely unpredictably dismantling. That's what January feels like. And when you set your goals, no matter how much prep you had done, no matter how good your mindset is, when you set your goals and go in January, you end up making the same mistakes that I did. And I'm going to tell you right now, don't do it. That's the message from today. I am, however, going to give you 3 things that you do need to do and do want to do so that you have a really good year, because this isn't about January. None of January has to do with January. Now, January is probably also the most neglected of all the months because of its misplaced identity. January is for recalibration. January is not for heightened energy and explosion. This is no different than the gym. You guys have probably been to the gym in January. It's the worst. I refuse to go to the gym in January because it is full of anxious energy. It's full of pushing and fighting and forceful endeavors and commitments that don't last. I'm not into commitments that don't last. I'm into real things that go a long way. And if I'm going to play the long game, I have to do something different. So 3 things that I'm going to talk to you about today that you can do to get yourself in position for a better year, even if January is not your best month ever, which, let's be honest, it shouldn't be. Number 1, I want you to aim before you fire. Imagine going to a pistol range and firing before you even put your scope on the target. That's what often happens in January. Rather than take the time to slow down, be less reactive and more intentional, we're firing and shooting from the hip. Aim is low. That means accuracy is low. And when those things happen, the rest of your year is almost a recovery act of the misshapen January that you've undertaken. I want you so bad. I want you so bad to be successful. I want you to have everything that you want. I want you to build the vision of your dreams. I want you to have the relationships that fulfill you. I want you to make an impact and contribute to the world around you. I want you to have the bestest of friends. I want you to have your health at its peak. I want those abs to be rippling. And I want you to adventure and travel and see the world. And the only way to build a kind of life like that kind of vision, to build that living vision out, you will have to aim before you fire. And I'll think of it this way. If you're in a pistol range, this is a good metaphor for a lot of reasons. If you're in a pistol range and you're setting sights for what is your target, you are not rapid firing. Each time you fire, it's another breath. And the whole goal of getting your aim dialed in is so that you're accurate. The easy distinguishing factor between a novice and a pro is how many times they fire inaccurately. Pro, very seldom are they firing before their aim is dialed in. They're just more patient. A novice, you can watch, will just fire. And do they fire more? Sure. They have the luxury. A novice has a luxury of being ignorant. You and I are too seasoned to be that. We have to be more professional. We have to be more established and bring finesse to the equation, whether you're scaling your company or you're just growing your company. You have to bring the finesse to it. January is a great time to slow down, have maybe a little bit more meetings. I would encourage you to have an extra several meetings with the key players on your team and get everybody on the same boat. Have group conversations about the direction, the goals, the KPIs, and the metrics that are going to determine your year, and really get dialed in with what matters. We want to visualize the horizon. We want to know where we're going. We want to define the day, define the month, define the quarter so that all of our activities are going the same way. And look, I got to be honest with you. I'm really bad at this. It takes deliberate effort, and I have to struggle through my urges from early entrepreneur days that really pull me into making decisions fast and going too swiftly into action mode. Action mode is the like toxicity of entrepreneurship. I know it sounds great, but visionaries don't act fast. It's the old slow is smooth, smooth is fast that I love. And it's a good time in January to slow down. So meetings are a great thing to adjust. Another thing that you can do is really get dialed in with what the end state of your vision is, and then start backtracking that down. I would encourage a lot of coffee shop meetings. I'd encourage an open calendar. I'd encourage time to connect. And I think that's going to be the distinguishing factor between you now and everyone else at the end of the year. If you do this now, your end of year will look tremendously different. The second thing to consider and do this January is to look at your arc. I know this new year, new you nonsense comes up every year. And every year I have to combat it with every client that I have. What ends up happening is we get really excited about short reinventions. And when we reinvent ourselves so frequently, not for the right reasons, and we do it because of social pressure and timeline basis that don't really have any relevance, we end up creating fast, right? We're sort of reactive. And it's a great time to look at your arc, to look at the vision that you're building and the place that you're going, and decide whether or not new patterns are needed before you change them. Oftentimes, I see people changing things that actually take them where they want to go in the long run, right? They don't necessarily have the information or data to validate why they're making changes. They're just looking for reinvention. And part of what I see as a pattern from the most successful people is that they're making 2-degree shifts at most. They're not dramatically shifting, like trying to turn around the Titanic. They are trying to adapt and improve their systems mechanically and slowly. The way this might look for you is to look at 3 things. I want you to look at your calendar. I want you to look at your money, your finances, both your business and your personal. And I want you to look at your health. Those are 3 areas where you can make small adjustments. Let's start with an example so that you understand the magnitude of why I believe this. I like, this is a core of me. I'm really proud to say this. I can still run a 6-minute mile. I've been able to run a 6-minute mile since I was 16. I've been in the same shape for more than 20 years. And what I've learned through a lot of ups and downs with fitness, not that it wasn't a perfect journey. There's no way it was, but a lot of ups and downs along that way, is that the more consistent we are, the more effective we are. I think this is true with health. I think it's true with business. I also think it's true with money. Consistency determines your long-term. Volatility determines your short-term. So my fitness journey has forced me to recalibrate time and time again, not only as I get older, but as things happen, whether I get injured or I'm training for something different. The marathon is one example. But I've had different challenges in my life that have required a different version of fitness. So sometimes I'm playing soccer at a high level and I need to be able to move and adapt and play. Sometimes I need to be strong. I need to be able to lift. Sometimes I need to leverage my fitness to get through hard mental issues or hard emotional challenges. And I think part of that process in fitness is that health, by many metrics, is one of the areas in our lives where we have very high control, and very low information. So I know what I'm eating. I know what I'm hydrating. Like, I can get that, right? I can figure out what I'm eating, what I'm intaking, what I'm doing. But what I often struggle to know is the information about how effective that is. This is why things like blood work and functional medicine become so important. If you need that, I've got a great connection for you. The challenge that most of us run into is that we don't have enough information. So if we start testing a high number of variables, right? We change our diet, we change our intake, we change our workouts. We can't actually tell what's working and what's not. And in the health game, what's most important is that we are chunking and changing very few things at once. If you change too many things at the same time, you don't know what's effective. What I've learned now, having a really regimented structure and system, I've got all the tech toys, right? I've got neuro, bioelectric systems. I've got health systems. I've got good food. I've got good intake. I've got good water. I've got cold plunge. I've got all these things. All of those systems were built very slowly. So my health equation now is very complicated compared to where it started, but they've been added slowly. I make no fast adjustments. And even something like a cold plunge was integrated very, very slowly. The New Year, New You movement is loudly about dramatic change, 30-degree shift. This is your year. Make it happen no matter what. Set the new goal as high as you can. Aim for the stars, and if you miss, you'll hit the moon. None of these make any actual sense. And what I want you to do here is that I want you to take an audit of those three things. Look at your calendar, look at your money. Those things are important. You'll see your decisions, right? Where's your time going? Where's your money going? And then if you start to look at your health, it's another easy place to look. Those three areas start to tell us a lot about how you can make small shifts. And rather than trying to set these blimp type goals where they're high up in the sky, I actually want you to make small 1-degree shifts. Rather than going to the gym once a week, go twice a week. If you're not going to the gym at all, fine, go once a week. Just once a week is a lot more. 52 times a year is a lot more than not going at all. But we've wrapped our mind around these large, almost breakneck speed changes that create a lot of problems. Rather than try to save a lot of money or invest a lot of money, just look at one small step. I know there's a ton of science that has been labeled and put out in the world, but I don't think it gets enough credit. There is way more effectiveness in setting goals that you can hit and build your confidence and trust and your systems out for hitting goals over trying to set breakneck goals that seem far-fetched. It is reliability in our goals that matters most. If I set a goal, do I trust that I can make it? Absolutely. And that is based on setting achievable, meaningful, and progressive steps forward. Look at your goals and see, are you trying to somehow break yourself in versus setting this like champion mindset, long arc structure that will make you more successful this year? That's point number 2. Goal number 3. I want you to focus this year on momentum. Maybe that deserves to be your word. Momentum is really important. Momentum is what changes the outcome that you get in December starting today. But momentum doesn't build fast. Momentum is this almost exponential curve where 1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8 versus the other way around. The doubling effect is really important. We've all heard of the penny story where you give someone an offer, hey, I'll give you $1 million, or I'll give you for a month a penny that doubles every day for a whole month. And if you take the penny, you end up with something like $5.2 million. It's dramatic because the doubling effect is way more important, but you start with less. And the penny effect could also be called the entrepreneur effect, because the difference between elite entrepreneurs and those that are novice is their ability to build momentum by starting smaller. I work with high net worth leaders for a living. I get to peer inside their inner workings, the way they think, act, and operate. I'm very lucky to say that. What I know for a fact, and I can prove this with 1,000 different examples, is that the more successful individuals are better at making the next step smaller. Well, let's break that down for a moment. Making the next step smaller is the almost exact opposite of what this January energy is, isn't it? We're accustomed to hearing set big goals, put big things on your vision board. All good. And I believe in that. I'm the guy that helps people build a big vision. I definitely believe in setting a big vision, but vision and goals are different. Goals are the breakdown of vision. They're the mechanics, the method, the structure, the shape, but they're not the vision. Goals are not vision. Goals are milestones towards it. And when we set goals that are too big, when we make the step too big, most people get discouraged. This is just how it works. No matter how successful and brave and courageous you think you are not too good to set a small goal. I think over time, have become so accustomed to setting small goals that momentum has kicked in. And now small goals and small changes happen more frequently. Imagine teaching your kid to drive a car. One day I'll teach Emerson how to do this. If he ever, I don't know, maybe, actually, one of my predictions for the future is that he won't need to drive. So maybe I won't teach him to drive a car. Regardless, I'll probably show him how it's done. Imagine trying to steer a car going 2 miles an hour. At that point, you're turning the wheel and the car's not moving very fast. It's just kind of rolling. You're not really able to make shifts very swiftly. Imagine a car going 90 miles an hour. Well, at that point, when you turn the wheel, you can really feel distance change, right? You can see the distance between lane 1 and lane 4 on a highway. I find that as we're building goals out, the conversation usually steers to how big is the goal? And I think that's the wrong conversation. In fact, I know for a fact that when people orient their goals towards the magnitude of the goal and not the efficacy of the goal, the accuracy of the goal, they're often going to come back misplaced, mistaken, or depressed because they didn't make it. Now, this car metaphor is not necessarily about speed, it's more about momentum. And making a small goal that you can hit at 2 miles an hour or steering into something that you can definitely achieve at 2 miles an hour and eventually speeding up will make you more accurate then. Like any skill, it needs practice. And taking time in January to aim is incredibly important. I think your ability to set aside time to really know what you're aiming for and minimize the number of things you're aiming for is going to give you the best bang for the buck going into this year. Here's how I do that, and here's what might help. We've got a dashboard system that we use for clients. If you would like access to this dashboard where you can track your goals, you can track your metrics, you can track your KPIs, and you can see your progress in real time, where circles are filling up in each of the key categories that we've identified. One is your career, your money, your business, your enterprises. One is your circle, your relationships, your friendships, all of those pieces. You've also got your time, right? Your adventure, your lifestyle, your responsibilities, and then you've got your health. If you'd like the dashboard, send me a note, jump on Instagram or jump on LinkedIn and send me a note. I will give you our dashboard for free. Nothing in return needed. I just want you to have the ability to track. But what I do with the dashboard is I look at how many targets can I achieve this year by starting today. And that question forces me to look less at the long goal and more at the process. Most of us are missing targets because we don't know the inputs. But let's talk about health for a minute. Health is not hard. Health is not that complicated. But if we are not moving, not eating, and not hydrating well, then it doesn't matter how hard you work when you go to the gym once a month. What I want you to consider is that momentum is the vehicle for change, and we do that by mastering your inputs. So this year, I sat down recently and looked at what are the inputs that are going to get me the outputs. And when I've set a big goal like I did this year, it can be really frustrating to do that. But taking the time in January to go through the uncomfortable aiming process, the breakdown process, the input process has paid dividends in the last several years. Because I've only started really getting good at that in the last several years after years of wasting my time setting big goals. That's the third thing to do, is to focus on momentum, not on these fast outcomes. What are most people doing right now in January? They're racing to get to the finish line, of which there is none, by the way. Your goals don't stop at the end of the year. Your business doesn't stop at the end of the year. Yes, I get we have metrics for year end, and I get we have metrics for how we celebrate success, but the game doesn't end. This is an infinite game that we're playing, and it's worth slowing down. I'm going to give you one last thing to do, and then I'm going to plug out. And I'm going to push you really hard on this one. I want you to set aside more time in January for thinking, planning, and aiming, your strategy basically, than anything else. It is a really hard thing to do that I'm asking you. I know that because everyone is going so fast, right? They're the anxious inside out character that's got the frayed orange hair. If you can do this, your year will be better. I can promise you that. Call me in December and tell me that it failed. I dare you. But don't do the January rush. It's not worth it. Instead, we can do that by following a couple of different paradigms. Number one, coffee shop time. Get to the coffee shop. Go, sit, have coffee, think, journal, write, and reflect. It is so worth it. So worth it. While everyone else is rushing, I want you to be the calm eye of the hurricane. Let them rush. Let them make their mistakes. Let them be the novices that aim. The champions, the visionaries are slow when everything is chaos. Warren Buffett, be fearful when everyone is greedy. Be greedy when everyone is fearful. Everyone is greedy in January. I want you to be incredibly fearful, meaning to sit down and instead of making rush choices while everyone's trying to feed after it, I want you to play and play slow. The second thing to do is to, instead of getting in action, I want you to start thinking about getting in system mode. System mode is when you're designing. This might slow you down. Designing your system, hiring for your system, and upgrading your system. No building can withstand earthquakes and rain and storms and wind without solid foundation. Your business may have been doing incredibly well, but still lack foundation. And if you are going to build a big vision, foundation is important. That is found in people, that is found in systems, that is found in culture. Those things will tremendously improve any business. But it all starts with January timelines being slowed down and getting a better sight on what you're aiming for. I know January is a rush. I'm telling you, don't do it. Oh, don't do it. Please don't do it. There's a better way. There's a better way. And I know you've been operating on all of the functions of a fast hustler. You've got to graduate out. Even if you've got systems in like EOS, there is a bigger, better system out there for how to operate as a visionary and how to make your year better by using January to sharpen your axe. Don't get caught up and swept up in January jives. There's a better way. If you need help getting out of your own way, becoming a visionary leader, learning to build a living vision, maybe building systems and structure and leadership so you can step out of your business and go live a much better life, maybe even starting more businesses and contributing at a larger level. We've got programs for you. We've got a retreat coming up in March in Cabo that is designed for 10 leaders to start taking quantum leaps in Q2. If you are interested in that retreat, check out my website. Go to living.vision/Cabo. You can learn all about it. It's March 13th to 15th in Mexico, and we would love to have you apply so we can get a sense of whether or not this will change your life the way I know it can. It's going to be a big year for us. I want it to be a big year for you. This retreat is one of those methods. We've leveled up our whole retreat system to make it better for those that attend. And if you qualify, this might be the thing that allows you to aim better, because we're going to get your vision straight, put you on a hot seat, and get you in the room with executives, leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners that are playing with all of the tools at their disposal and are ready to get after it. We take our entire system that we use with 8-figure founders and bring it to these retreats. It's an affordable way to get a life-changing program, and I'd love for you to consider it and see if you qualify. Go to that website. You can drop some information there and let me know where you're at, and I'll let you know if it's right for you. Otherwise, get your ass in gear from an aiming perspective. Take time in January to journal, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for being here. Let's make January a slow success, not a fast one.